There is the potential to increase the number of electric passenger cars from just over 2 million in 2016 to 200 million in 2030. Electric 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles could outnumber 4-wheeled vehicles with as many as 900 million on the roads by 2030. Our next panel of guests will discuss smart transportation and electric vehicles. I would like to invite Arpit Gupta, Assistant Editor, ETGovernment, to moderate the discussion. Over to you, Arpit.
Dear viewers and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the panel discussion Smart Transportation and Electric Vehicles, part of Urban Innovation Summit 2022. India is ready to play a significant and strategic role in the world of electric mobility. Many states have rolled out policies for greater adoption of electric vehicles. In response, utilities, charging network operators, and technology providers are working towards ramping up the charging infrastructure to support this transition to EVs. One of the key pillars of Budget 2022 was a focus on environment-friendly, clean public transport in India. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a new battery swapping policy for electric vehicles. And the government would also be developing new mobility zones meant for electric vehicles charging stations. On behalf of ETGovernment, I, Arpit Gupta, welcome our esteemed panelists. Gentlemen, to lead the panel, I am joined by eminent leaders. I welcome Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh, Additional Chief Secretary, Home, Transport and Ports, Government of Maharashtra. I also welcome Mr. K.R. Jyothilal, Principal Secretary, Transport, Aviation and Metro, Government of Kerala. I welcome Mr. Manu, Srivastava, Principal Secretary, Government of Madhya Pradesh. I welcome Mr. Anjum Parwez, Managing Director, Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation. I also welcome Mr. Dipanshu Kabra, Transport Commissioner, Government of Chhattisgarh. And last but not the least, I also welcome Mr. R.K. Pandey, Member Projects, National Highways Authority of India. Let me begin the discussion. I ask my first question to Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh, Additional Chief Secretary, Home, Transport and Ports, Government of Maharashtra. Sir, one of the key pillars of Budget 2022 was a focus on environment-friendly, clean public transport in India. Maharashtra Transport Department has gone for technology-backed solutions to establish transparency, efficiency and ensure safety for all. How are you leveraging cutting-edge technology to enhance operational efficiency and providing hassle-free, safe travel experience to the commuters? Over to you, sir.
Transportation and mobility are the single biggest reason for economic development across the world. However, one of the biggest contributors to the greenhouse gas emissions today, almost about 14%, is the transport sector. It's the third, sometimes second most carbon dioxide emitting sector in the world. And road transport contributes more than 90% of these CO2 emissions in the transportation sector. So what we have done in Maharashtra is to ensure that more and more services are provided online to our citizens. And also we have come out with a new electric vehicle policy, which to our understanding is one of the most forward-looking policies that the country has, wherein we are incentivizing both customers as well as producers of electric vehicles. Transport Department offers 1 crore citizen services by way of driving license and vehicle related services. We deliver almost 95% of these services online. And this has happened more during the pandemic as we have moved a step further. We have adopted faceless services through the use of Aadhaar-based authentication. Today, as I speak, people in Maharashtra can apply for learner's license online, give the test while sitting in the comfort of their own house, and get a digital copy of their learner's license in their own inbox at the click of their computer. From what was earlier perceived as a harrowing time, visiting the regional transport office or the deputy RTO's office to appear for an exam, it has become an extremely comfortable, seamless process that has delighted the customers who have had the experience of taking these online tests. Over 7 lakh people have already availed this facility. Also, the entire relationship of citizens and businesses with the government is now being made more trust-based by our department. Thanks to technology, the motor vehicle dealers in Maharashtra are now entrusted with the responsibility of registering the vehicles without any inspection or manual intervention. The entire process is completely seamless, reducing vehicle registration time from 3 days to a mere 1 hour. With 5.5 lakh vehicles registered, the numbers speak for the success of this technological intervention. During the pandemic, we have also provided assistance to our auto rickshaw drivers. As all of you are aware, during the pandemic, most of the transport services were suspended, and the worst affected were the auto rickshaw drivers. So the government decided to do an Aadhaar-based direct transfer of this benefit into their Aadhaar-linked bank accounts. We have transferred about 38 crores to more than 4 lakh auto drivers in the shortest possible time without a single person being asked to visit any government office. So this is how we have harnessed the power of technology to bring about efficiencies in the processes and deliver seamless services to the citizens. In the times to come, we intend to use artificial intelligence and video analytics to test the driving skills of drivers on automated driving test tracks and get the fitness of vehicles done in an automated way. One of the first automated driving test tracks, as well as the testing for fitness of vehicles, has been set up in Maharashtra. The driving experience in Pune, some of you who live there might have already had it. And similarly, those of you who've been to Nashik would know that we have an automated testing track for fitness of vehicles in Nashik. We hope that every district will have enough testing tracks which will be automated, so the entire experience will be digital and at the same time will provide the country with much better drivers than we have today. I would also like to mention here that this is not something which is going to happen in the next 15 years. In fact, our procurement process for both automated testing tracks for drivers as well as automated testing facility for fitness of vehicles is going to come out very soon, not later than 3 months from now. The whole process is already almost completed. We're just running through it with various departments for approval, and hopefully it will be out very soon. We have in Maharashtra also adopted AR, which is augmented reality and virtual reality, for training drivers dealing with accident conditions. So we have bought simulators, and these simulators are in our RT offices, so that you can create conditions wherein drivers actually experience an accident situation and respond accordingly. Because most of us who have gone through some accidents would know that accident conditions cannot be simulated in real life. So it can only be done virtually. Yet, most of us, when we are actually facing an accident condition, are doing it for the very first time. So we are very hopeful that the simulators that we are providing with the software which will simulate accident conditions will make much better drivers come up in India.
My first question to Mr. Manu Srivastava. Sir, India is ready to play a significant and strategic role in the world of electric mobility. Coupling EV charging with low-cost renewable energy systems can go a long way in improving the economics, both EV and RE adoption. What are the future challenges in EV policies and their roadmap, and how to reimagine ways for promoting EVs with low-cost renewable energy for an electrifying future? Over to you, sir.
As you rightly said, it helps both the sectors. It helps not only electrical vehicles, which obviously it does, it also helps renewable energy. The reason being that if you look at the biggest roadblock in growth of renewable energy in the country, that has been the fact that the DISCOMs have existing power purchase agreements, usually with conventional power, and there is an obvious resistance from them in entering new power purchase agreements, as also allowing customers to have their direct power purchase agreements. So this is because the total demand for electricity has not been as buoyant as we would have hoped. Now, this electrical vehicles is such an obvious candidate for increasing the electrical demand of the country. It ticks all the boxes. It helps us increasing our climate change goals. It helps us also in addressing straight away pollution, setting aside global warming, etc. The simple pollution that we face in our cities, it helps us to address that. So if we focus on electrical vehicles, facilitate that, make it possible in far bigger numbers, like what happened earlier in Delhi and Bombay with the CNG a few decades back, which took place with the regulatory intervention and the Supreme Court's intervention. If we follow similar steps, it would help not only EV, but also renewable energy. The total basket of electricity consumption would increase, which would facilitate renewable energy projects to come in far greater numbers. We all know that no new coal-based power projects are coming up. The only new projects that are coming up are RE-based, but the resistance that they face is essentially because the DISCOMs feel that they don't need any more power. Once the total demand for electricity increases, the DISCOMs would be far more welcoming, which would help RE in general. How can it be done? There are a number of things, which I'm sure my other panelists will also talk about. If we talk about big fleets in terms of big transport companies, etc., for long distance haulage, I think as a policy measure, what needs to be encouraged is decentralized generation, that there is a location outside the cities and there is a co-located solar plant close by, so they can get power at around almost 2.5-3 rupees per unit these days, which would make it absolutely viable. In sectors where this location outside the city is not possible, and there are charging stations within the city, like State Road Transport Corporation or urban city buses, or even in colonies where there are parking lots where you want to use for parking. The electricity regulators have to allow a different charging rate, a different category as they do for, so as we know, agricultural and domestic are not as highly charged as commercial and industrial. So we have to have a slightly lower tariff for these categories. These are steps, I'm sure, which would help in easy rollout of EV sector. Another last point I would like to say is that India is an extremely price sensitive market. And as we would all notice that the adoption of EV has been far more by our two-wheeler and three-wheelers than our four-wheelers. All over the world, the EV movement has been led by the upper class, by the affluent who have this commitment towards a cleaner form of transportation. Whereas in India, four-wheelers have still to see that sort of traction for EVs. It is more the two-wheeler and three-wheeler users who are driven primarily by economic concerns, not as much by environmental, but economic concerns. So we need to take note of that and move accordingly. Thanks.
Now I'll move to Mr. K.R. Jyothilal. Sir, according to the Finance Minister, the budget 2020 is aimed at promoting the use of public transport in urban areas. The Kerala government is set to establish solar-based public charging stations for charging electric vehicles in the state. And Kerala State Electricity Board has announced that 1,140 pole-mounted charging points would be established across Kerala at a cost of Rs 9 crores soon. What is the current progress on that?
Yeah, in fact, Kerala is one of the pioneers as far as the EV adoption is concerned. Probably I already closed almost 16,000 vehicles are already registered in Kerala, electric vehicles. We have got an aggressive EV policy whereby we are targeting a 1 million electric vehicles by 2025. In fact, majority will be two-wheelers, three-wheelers. In fact, we are going to the next of the electrified spectrum, which is even fuel cell. In fact, we start a pilot project to 10 hydrogen fuel cell buses for the Kochi Metro. And you might be knowing that world's first international airport fully run on solar is in Kochi. In fact, India's first solar boat we brought. We are now going for more boats. Water Metro, which is also first of its kind in the world, probably is coming up. Now we are trying to put the fuel cell in place of the battery. So the charging center is one of the key things, which is as far as electrified mobility is concerned. Already 100 charging centers by both the electricity board, the ANERT, the IOC, then swapping centers by Sun Mobility already being established in Kerala. Now we have recently announced 1,140 electric pole-mounted charging centers by the electricity board, because the common man, especially those who are two-wheelers and three-wheelers, they need only a plug point where you can charge, and you can pay it using Google Pay, or you can pay UPI or any credit card or debit card. So you don't need a person to man the charging centers, and there are electric poles across the state. Kerala being 100% electrified and 100% digital, and even a beggar uses mobile, or they use Google Pay. So I think that's a level of penetration of the technology. So I think we will be hopeful of that across the state we will be able to provide the charging centers for all the modes of transport, the two-wheelers, three-wheelers, as well as fast charging centers. So we signed the agreement on 31st. We will commission in next 6 months. So that's a plan.
So my next question to Mr. Anjum Parwez, Managing Director, Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation. Sir, the total network of Bangalore Metro will be extended from 56 km to 170 km. And its daily ridership is expected to increase from 17 lakh up to 17 lakh by 2024. What kind of modern technologies are getting implemented under the Metro Rail project in Bangalore? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Arpit. And as you rightly said, BMRCL is a pretty young organization if you compare with Delhi. So we have just completed 10 years of our, not operation, but the establishment of BMRCL is about 10 years old. And when we completed phase 1, we were about 42 kilometers, but the part of phase 2 we have completed, and we are at presently about 56 kilometer operation is going on. As you rightly said, by 2024, our target is to reach 173 kilometer. That is including the airport line. So that is the outer ring road, and then it will go straight from Hebal to the airport line. And with the underground completion and all, so maybe somewhere in mid of 2025, we'll be running about 173 kilometer. But that's not the end of BMRCL, because we have a master plan, and if I go as per that master plan, then my total need as of now is about 317 kilometers. So it is going to be a massive network, and very shortly will be the second largest metro after Delhi. Now, as you rightly said, that when we are doing such kind of massive project, then we have to utilize the available technology which can be utilized in the metro system, and these technology can be utilized with the perspective of saving the cost. That is the major criteria, and then what kind of comfort that we are going to provide to the commuters, and the third will be like the safety issue, that how we can bring technology that can improve the safety. And the biggest challenge that we are going to face in the future is that right now my technology with the technology signaling thing which we are using as of now in the phase 1, I'll be able to give minimum 5 minutes headway. I cannot run train lesser than that headway. So that's the biggest challenge, because the more ridership, more trains has to be put, more frequency has to be improved and all. So for all these things, we are working in BMRCL and continuously, not only ourselves go through the website and all those things of other metro, but internationally also what are the good technology that is being used. And accordingly, the different wing of BMRCL is doing different kind of activity. So I will just, a lot of activities going on, but I will just focus on a few. The first thing is that we are working how we can reduce our dependency upon the state grid or the national grid as per the power supply is concerned. And we are going to promote, the work has already started, and we are going to install about 1.5 megawatt solar power at 5 stations. That's the beginning, like just the beginning. And once it is successful, then this model we are going to follow. And by this, our dependency will come down, and many crores of rupees will be saved as far as the operation part is concerned. Now, second thing is that whatever the new design that we are doing in the metro, that is the phase 2 and phase 2A and 2B, we are designing in such a fashion that during the daytime, the requirement of lighting system is minimum possible. So what we are doing that we are designing in such a fashion that the natural light during the daytime should be able to provide enough visibility, and then we are going for the LED based light also that we are going. Now, another important part is that all our electrical equipment from the energy efficiency point of view, they are all being monitored and operated through a building management system. So by using this system, we know that what is the condition of the machine, how efficient those machines are, what is the problem that is coming. And so we are doing multiple technological thing that we are bringing in the system. Now we are thinking of a better surveillance system of the station, face recognition, and those kind of things that we are thinking about. So in coming days, we'll see more and more technology coming in the picture.
So my next question to Mr. Dipanshu, Kabra Transport Commissioner, Government of Chhattisgarh. Sir, one of the key pillars of Budget 2022 was a focus on environment-friendly, clean public transport in India. Chhattisgarh Transport Department has gone for technology-backed solutions to establish transparency, efficiency, and ensure safety for all. How are you leveraging cutting-edge technology to enhance operational efficiency and providing hassle-free, safe travel experience to the commuters? Over to you.
So, Arpit, basically when I joined a year back, so there were many things that were missing, even though NIC had given the software of Sarthi and Vahan for integrating of our license system and the vehicles. Then there were few things which were still being used where technology was not being used. So what I did was one important thing what we did was improving on the fitness test. So earlier there were complaints that vehicles didn't used to come, and there was a physical test which was just a discretion of the inspector or the RTO, and he would pass the trucks or the vehicles without they being roadworthy. So we introduced a software wherein it was compulsory on the part of them to take the photographs, upload that. We then geofence the mobile as well. So then it was then they couldn't do any malpractice because the vehicle had to come to that particular spot where we had geofenced the mobile. So that really changed the way fitness started doing in Chhattisgarh. Second one thing what we understood was the more we use this technology, the corruption level, the touts which get engaged in the transport department will get reduced. So then there was this scheme of Tuar Sarkar Tuar Dwar which we launched. It is the government at your doorstep. So basically, when then we integrated these things with Aadhaar, around 22 services. We took them online, integrated with Aadhaar as well. And now, suppose you want to, again, for your license, if you want to renew your license, you can do by sitting at home. And you don't need to visit the RTO office. You can do by integrating it with the Aadhaar. If not, if you go down to the office as well, the delivery of this RCs and the license has been done through speed post. And the best part of this whole scheme, because this is nothing new. This has few states have been doing this. I visited a few. I wouldn't name them. But there's again a system which operates where these licenses and RCs are not delivered to those people. And again, the agents come into action, and when they get money, then only these get delivered. So we have been continuously monitoring these things. And our by till date, I think we have sent more than 6 lakhs of RCs and DL. and our return rate is less than 1%. So we have tied up with the speed post, and we ensure we give them the mobile number as well. So they give 3 chances for the person to get himself available. He calls, the speed post guy call also, and we are continuously monitor with the post service as well. So this is one thing which is done extremely well at our place, and people are very happy with it. I am going further ahead. We are planning to give the home services for people at their home. This would include again filling the forms for them. So then it will be an end-to-end where our people who will go and fill their forms, do the scanning of the documents, help them out in doing all those things. Then we'll have people who will receive them at, if they want to go to some centers, we'll get them that particular time for those centers. And then finally that RC or DL will come to the doorstep as well. So this is how we are improving on our delivery of services to our citizens. And there are many other initiatives that we did in IT. So IT is one thing which I feel we have to just identify what problems the people are facing, how easily, how it can be rectified, what help does it need. So I'm thankful to the NIC guys as well. So our team, my team, and they have worked. So there are many things that we did first time. So it was really a difficult task, but yes, we have done it. We are now going in for PUC certificates, getting it through online, making it online one. We are again planning for a E-track. We have around 28 districts we are planning. That automatic vehicle driving test will be given. This we are planning on a triple P mode as well. So I'm taking all those steps which we need to take so as to modernize our transport department.
Now let me move to our next speaker, Mr. R.K. Pandey. He is member projects in National Highways Authority of India. Let us also understand how NHAI is leveraging technology to improve efficiency and increase transparency in the overall ecosystem of transport. Mr. Pandey, keeping in view the electronic toll collection penetration in the country, NHAI has successfully transitioned to 100% cashless tolling from February 2021. Going forward, what scopes and opportunities do you see for setting up intra-investment trust? Over to you.
Friends, yes, it is the fact that electronic toll collection is one of the success story of NHAI. In fact, NHAI is trying to harness each and every part of the market as well as technology to make the road transport safer, efficient, and more open, transparent. When it comes to use of technology, technology can be used in various spheres. When I see the highway project, there is a life cycle. It starts from conceptualization till operation. So far as we were, concentrating on construction of the highway, that day now is not far when people will be expecting more kind of services. So electronic toll collection is one of the steps which we have already taken up. When I have taken up and constructing our roads, now the road user has a lot of expectation and they need all kind of information. They would like to know everything in advance. So advanced traffic management, it's another step towards implementation of the intelligent transport system. Now ATMS has been formed integral part of our highway projects. This is on the side when I talk about the use of technology for the services. As far as use of technology for our day-to-day purpose, I can only tell you that all our systems are today data-driven. We are not relying on the letters written by the contractor or the consultant. They'll have to log on. We have a system of data lake wherein they can lodge their request, letters, proposal, whatever it is. It gives me, all kind of facility. It gives me full freedom to monitor them, see to it where things are lying. It has made my system very transparent and open. Coming to the second part of your question about the InvIT, as I said, the NHI will have to build a very robust infrastructure of national highway, which although is very small component of the total road network, but carries the substantial traffic. Here what we did is we started with development of road with BOT. There was a lull in the market during the year 11-12. So we brought in EPC mode of construction, EPC where an entire thing has been constructed by the government and funds provided by the government. But we cannot sustain that kind of funding. So another new mode, HAM, was brought in, wherein a partial funding was done by the government and balance is brought in by the concessionaire. The latest in the series is InvIT, wherein a trust has been formed, investment trust has been formed. And here in the first InvIT, we have offered 5 projects covering around 400 kilometers of road. And it's a successful InvIT. We got good response from the market. Of course, it was restricted to the institutional funders. We are expecting another InvIT which will be open to public as well.
So my next question to Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh from Government of Maharashtra. Sir, Maharashtra's electric vehicle policy aims to bring at least 146,000 new battery-operated electric vehicles on roads by 2025. What is the current progress on the same, and how are you gearing up towards accomplishing this target? Over to you.
See, we have been greatly benefited by the FAME scheme, the Faster Adoption and Manufacturing of Hybrid and Electric Vehicle scheme, which the Government of India announced in 2019. It allowed incentives to be provided to vehicle purchases and promote establishment of charging infrastructure. It has been extended for the second phase by 2 years up to 31st March 2024. On the background of this FAME scheme, we came out with our own policy in 2021. The refreshed policy, the new policy, provides for subsidies to both customers as well as producers of electric vehicles, as I had said earlier. So there are supply side incentives and there are demand side incentives, and these are provided directly to the OEMs so that customers do not have to visit government offices to claim their subsidies. For formulating this policy and for its implementation, we had established a task force which was headed by the Additional Chief Secretary Transport, that is myself, and we had all the stakeholder departments from environment to pollution to industry, etc. We conducted multiple brainstorming sessions, and now we have a policy which aims to transform Maharashtra into a leading state in terms of adoption of electric vehicles. Specifically for the charging infrastructure side, I would say that the policy aims to achieve establishment of a minimum of 50 charging stations per population of 10 lakhs in 6 major urban areas, as well as a minimum of 1 station at the distance of 25 kilometers on 4 major expressways and highways that crisscross the state. The policy also encourages to provide property tax rebates to residential owners for establishment of charging infrastructure in their own buildings and societies. For all new constructions approved, EV readiness is kept into consideration by providing a minimum target for EV charging stations as per the type of the premise. The policy, as I've said, is also something in which we are ensuring that we establish a portal for the charging infrastructure, for incentive disbursement, as well as one-stop information portal for all citizens. As I just said, we are in the process of establishing a portal for charging infrastructure, for incentive disbursement to both citizens as well as the OEMs, and create a one-stop portal for all citizens who intend to deal with purchase of vehicles. It will be a centralized system where EV charging station management will also be in place, and there will be a cashless payment option for all citizens to access the incentives. We also offer supply side incentives, which is already in place. We have said that we will be offering incentives to companies which are currently being given only in the most backward areas of the state for all companies wanting to set up any investment in the EV space. So what was earlier available only to people who set up industries in the most backward areas, is an incentive now being given to all EV manufacturers and EV ancillaries so that they can be incentivized to set up shop in Maharashtra. We also have a separate policy for mega projects, where the size of the project, if it is large with higher employment potential, we can tailor make the incentives to be able to give them what they would be benefited most by. One of the ambitions that we have is to create a EV production facility of gigawatt scale for advanced chemistry cell batteries. And we have announced it very clearly that we will give all the facilities of physical location, waiving of stamp duty, exemption of electricity duty to whoever sets up industry relating to EV, as well as particularly relating to battery manufacturing. Now with the PLI scheme of the Government of India, we are hopeful that people will find Maharashtra to be the most lucrative state in the country. We are targeting the establishment, as I said, of at least one gigafactory. And we have recently signed also an MOU with UK-based Cosys e-Mobility, which intends to have a two-phase project execution. Phase 1 will be zero emission electric vehicles unit at near Pune, and the phase 2 will be setting up a gigawatt scale battery facility in and around that same area. This we hope will not only give a boost to EV manufacturing and its ancillary industries, but also create more than say 1,200 plus skilled jobs, which can be scaled up as manufacturing grows in the state. Today, Maharashtra is the largest producer of automotives in the country, and we hope to keep this leadership position in place. Our policy is also provided incentives for research and development, for innovation, and for skill development across the EV ecosystem in the state. On the demand side, the policy envisages achieving 25% electrification of all public transport and last mile delivery in 6 targeted urban agglomerations of the state by 2025. It aims to convert 15% of the state's State Road Transport Corporation, the fleet of the State Road Transport Corporation, by 2025. Now, 15% of this fleet is a very large number because we operate more than 18,500 buses today. As some of you would be aware, the Bombay Electric Supply and Transport, BEST as it is called here in Mumbai, is already procuring 2,000 electric vehicles, and their tender is finalized, and they've got a rate which is extremely competitive under the GCC contract basis. So we are very confident that the policy will be very successful. Already there is a 27% jump in the registration of EVs in the state. We have already announced that there will be no tax, there will be no registration hassles, there will be no permits for electric vehicles operating in the state. So in the past 10 years, what was about 37,500 vehicles, we see that since the launch of this policy, there is a threefold jump in year-on-year registration. EV registration within the first 6 months has gone up to 64,000 in the state. And this is a very big jump, given the fact that in the last 10 years, we were at 37,500, and in the last 3 months, we have registered 64,000 EVs, which is almost about double of what we had done in the 10 years. So we believe that the incentives are working, and we believe that it will be a policy which will be received well by both the manufacturers as well as citizens.
Now I'll again go back to Mr. Manu Srivastava. Sir, for EV adoption across passenger and commercial segments, as we were discussing, I feel public transport vehicles, including 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers running on petrol and diesel, will be completely phased out. As India's EV ecosystem is constantly evolving, what will be the scope of EV adoption for the logistic companies running large fleets?
Firstly, I would like to say that this has to come through an economic justification. Earlier, I had given the example, let's say, of CNG. Now, even in the case of CNG, if you have lived in a city like Delhi, you would notice that Supreme Court mandated CNG only for public vehicles. So, of course, all DTC vehicles, all taxis, etc., were legally bound to move to CNG. But if you notice, large numbers of private cars have voluntarily moved to CNG in Delhi. The reason is entirely economics. So India is a market that is especially driven by price dynamics. In the case of EV vehicles, fortunately, the cost favors EVs, not merely in project life cycle terms, but even in the capital cost terms. So that is why I would again say this, that in India, the movement towards EVs, in Germany and US and Europe, remaining parts of Europe, you would see that the EV is something that the green movement is fond of. It's committed for, and people who are very often intellectually committed towards the green movement, they move towards electric vehicles. Whereas here, it is not so. Here, the electric vehicle movement is entirely the three-wheeler, the auto-wheeler guys, and who might not even have heard of COP26, or people who are using the two-wheeler, school and college going students who are moving into that. So thankfully, if you talk about solar, let's say a rooftop system, solar rooftop system is cheaper in project life cycle terms. So you have to give a long calculation to make people convinced of that. However, for two-wheelers and three-wheelers, even the capital cost is actually cheaper. So that is a huge plus. So same thing that you answered, that for huge transport fleets as well. Finally, what the reason has to be economics, and the products have to become cheaper. That would happen only when there is a demand aggregation. Here, even government might have to play a role. I would compliment organizations like CESL, which have really aggregated the demand from various states, or this can even be done at the state level, where demand aggregation can take place, which would bring down the cost of vehicles. If you big transport operators, private transport operators have to be encouraged, even then perhaps government would have a role in terms of demand aggregation. The other part is how to make it viable on a continuous level. So we have to reduce the cost of electricity. For that, there are two ways out. Firstly, that the electricity regulators should have a lower cost of electricity when it's for EV charging. I understand that it is very difficult to distinguish EV charging from the regular consumption in a consumer's location. If it's a mixed usage, if it's a shop or a house, it's using it for commercial or residential purpose, and it also uses it for charging, it's very difficult to distinguish it. But if there are identified charging stations, then a separate tariff category is entirely workable. So such huge transport fleets should have charging infrastructure outside the city with a dedicated charging facility, which should enjoy the benefit of a lower tariff. And the other is that there should be a provision for a co-located, I would call it a rooftop, not because it has to be on top of a roof, but that is a commonly held, understood word. But I mean, it's a decentralized project. A decentralized project should be allowed, which is co-located, so that there is no wheeling charges, there are no other charges, and it is just adjacent to the area, and it can directly consume the solar energy so produced. That energy would be available at today's rates at almost 2.5–3 rupees. It can be done even in a RESCO pattern. So these are things that need to be done to make it viable for big transport operators to move to EVs in big numbers.
I'll take this to Mr. Jyothilal as well, sir. What is your opinion as India's EV ecosystem is constantly evolving? What will be the scope of EV adoption for the logistics companies running large fleets? Over to you.
Yeah, in fact, any transformation happens in two ways you can do it. One is by force, another is by source. So one is by force. That means actually first thing we did is we banned all the diesel autos, so that people will be, naturally they will be forced to, switch over. Second is we give 5-year incentive. If you switch over to either LNG, CNG or electric, we'll give you 5 more years. So the life of the product can be made 5 more years. So people will be, there is an incentive for them to convert. then there is a disincentive for them to continue to pollute. Okay. Then second is, okay, green cess is another concept which we introduced. Then government issued an order that no department, no one can buy any diesel vehicle, and they need to naturally go for a higher electric vehicles only. So naturally there's a demand generation which has happened. Then building rules amendment was done so that you have put charging centers across it. Then swapping is another thing. As far as three-wheelers and two-wheelers is concerned, swapping it's a great, good initiative. In fact, we put in our policy that 150 swapping centers, we'll fund it. So both the private sector as well as in the KSEB, we'll put 100%, the others 25% subsidy we give. Second is, see, in the electrified spectrum, maybe up to the cars, it is viable to have an electric vehicle. So trucks as well as the bus, we tried with electric buses. But then we found that public transport, Kerala is one of the states we are 100% funding the public transport, including the pension and salary I am paying for the our STU employees. Can you imagine? Still is run like a department. So in that way, public transport need to be funded by government. Whether to what extent, that's a separate question. But when you look at electrified spectrum as far as the bus and trucks are concerned, we found the range was one range anxiety, the charging time is another anxiety. Third one is weight of the batteries. So we tried now with the LTO batteries, which are a fast charging battery. Actually, India's first LTO battery water metro is now ready in Kochi. So that that probably there also you have got to charge maybe every 50 or 75 kilometers. So, but you can charge it in 8 minutes. Then TOSA charging for the cities is another concept. That is where we came to the fuel cell. How to use instead of battery, you replace hydrogen as the storage medium. That's how we came to the fuel cell. But there are also 2-3 important aspects is that you need a fueling station, hydrogen fuel station, which is to be based on the green, maybe solar or wind, or basically energy stored in the 5 elements. You need to take either from biomass or solar or wind or tidal. So that is actually Kerala, we have got a lot of dams. We are putting floating solar. In fact, Cochin International Airport Golf Course, we generate power using floating solar at 2.4 rupees per unit. That's one of the cheapest. So making available power at the cheapest rate using your dams, water is available in plenty. You convert the water into hydrogen, store it up to 25 kilometers, you put pipeline and supply the green hydrogen across all the cities. So that is the second part as far as the hydrogen fuel cell economy is concerned. So that you are able to supply the hydrogen maybe at less than 150, maybe $1 to $2. If you can make it, they're going to be break even, and is less than the cost will be much maybe compared to a diesel vehicle, the operating cost will be much less. We did a study and we found that 1 kg of hydrogen will be equivalent to 5 liters of diesel. So in effect, if it is less than $2, we can make it happen. Second is, how do we make use of the other facilities available, like LNG? LNG is available in Kochi. How can we use it instead of storage? The storage cost and dispensing cost is slightly higher as far as the hydrogen is concerned. So we are looking at patented technologies whereby we can use the LNG, cold energy of LNG to liquefy the hydrogen, then supply it in a liquid form across the state. So that is another thing which we are working with the Petronet as well as BPCL. So now good thing is that new hydrogen mission is going to be announced, and I think they are going to make it compulsory for refineries and industries to go for it. Then that will help in mobility sector also, because then only huge investment will come in that sector. Then you are coming to the point of how do we incentivize. See, one is we give for the vehicle. So auto rickshaws we give up to 30,000 subsidy per vehicle. Then we have got a road tax. We have now GST is made 5%. Now road tax we made it to 2.5. Actually, we wanted to make it 0. 0 means then everybody, anything given free, then I think a lot of may not be correct. So we put it at 2.5% for the entire electrified spectrum, both hybrid, electric as well as the fuel cell vehicles. Then road tax we have reduced. Then maybe other fees, and then parking fees. Then the charging centers we have set up across, as I said, 1,140 charging centers. Then incentivize them on one side. At the same time, bring in the by force. You need to make the change happen. Anyway, it is happening in various in all the spheres, except that the heavy duty trucks and buses and even plane. We are working on something called sustainable aviation fuel, which is based on the green hydrogen for the electric planes, as well as hyperloops and the trains. As Germany has planned 1,300 trains will be converted into fuel cell. So we are working on the other sectors also, but it will take maybe 5 to 10 years for the entire transition to happen. But it's definitely happening.
My next question to Mr. Anjum Parwez from the government of Karnataka. Sir, one of the key pillars of budget 2022 was a focus on environment-friendly, clean public transport in India. What is your strategy for faster adoption of electric vehicles? Can you please share insights on EV infrastructure in your state, charging stations, battery testing, and energy storage?
See, as you rightly said, there are a lot of focus when our finance minister was presenting the budget on electric vehicle, and the government is giving a lot of support to that. And we have already come to a situation where the two-wheelers electric vehicle are of the same cost as the diesel or the petrol two-wheeler, and more people are going for the electric vehicle, and we can also see the visibility as far as the two-wheelers are concerned. And similarly, there are many companies manufacturing the three-wheeler also. They are also moving very rapidly to the electric vehicle system. The four-wheelers are also coming. So when the metro is one of the pillar of the mobility, as you rightly said, and I can say it's the major pillar. It's not a minor pillar, it's the major pillar which has to support all kind of new technology which is coming in the transport sector. So we have also decided that yes, we are going to be a very much part of this movement, I can say, which is going on in our country about the electric vehicle is concerned. Now, if you see the electric vehicle, the major challenge that people are facing is that the charging station. So if you have a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler, where you are going to do the charging. So now the charging station is one thing, and the many companies are approaching us for the swapping station, which is a much easier way of doing the things. Rather than parking your vehicle there for 15 minutes and getting charged, the battery swapping can be done within no time. It just takes about a minute or so. The only thing is that the standardization of the battery should come so that the same kind of battery is compatible with different kind of manufacturer, which is ultimately going to come. So we are working on two fronts. The first thing is that on 10 major stations of Bangalore, we are going to establish the charging station with the help of ESL company. It's a Government of India company. So we are going to give them, and they will establish the charging station for four-wheeler also, three-wheeler also. But the more point will be given for the charging of two-wheeler, because the metro perspective, two-wheeler and three-wheeler is very, very important. So very shortly that 10 places they will do. But gradually, every station we want to bring a charging station. The old stations, it's a little bit difficult because it was not designed keeping that in mind. But the future which we are going to come up, there is a phase 2, 2A, 2B, there is enough space to put up these charging stations. And similarly, we are working with a few companies, like, for example, one two-wheeler company is Yulu, which are interested in putting the swapping stations at the metro station. Then the Hondas have come forward. I have given one metro station to Honda people to put up their swapping station. Then a lot of web-based autos are coming. So like recently we started something called Sanic Pod. So these are the auto company which is providing the three-wheeler services exclusively for the metro, going from metro and coming to metro, which are driven by the ex-army people. So very safe and mode of travel. So there we have given them facility to park their one vehicle always ready in our parking lot itself. So whether it is parking, whether it is charging station, and we are looking forward for partners to do on a very, very large scale, because in future our number of stations are going to be in hundreds of stations are going to come. And if people can get a facility to charge their vehicle there, they can simply come, and in the parking area also we are coming with a lot of charging points in the parking area also, wherever we have parking space. So we are there, and we are giving our best possible to see that we are a partner in the expansion of the electric vehicle.
My next question again to our speaker from Government of Chhattisgarh. Mr. Kabra, Chhattisgarh has an electric vehicle density of nearly 6,000. What should be the way forward for faster adoption of electric vehicles? As India's EV ecosystem is constantly evolving, what will be the scope of EV adoption for the logistic companies running large fleets?
So we are in the final stage of finalizing our EV policies. I've gone through policies of all of the states. And yes, there is a major shift in the EVs for at least for the auto sector. So one thing which I've seen in other cities as well, which I have traveled. So the normal autos have, and especially in crowded cities, the normal autos have shifted to the electric auto. It's very simple logic. One was that there were push from the government side. There was a subsidy in most of the states, and people would buy. In Raipur, we have one company which is giving in higher charges, per day charge as well. So more and more people are moving into it. The cost per kilometer has reduced. So the only thing, the problem with them is charging their batteries, and which they have got charges. The companies have come up. So it's one there. Major hindrance for adoption of these vehicles is only the charging point and the charging facilities as such. So we have in our draft policy that we have talked with the government. We are planning for a overall of this whole charging platform, and slowly and steadily, because when I started working on the EV project, I realized that there were so many adapters for the charging, and now the standardization is being done by the Government of India and their departments. So over a period of time, when these will get evolved, as mobile has evolved over the charger, and finally it's come to the C charger, we also need to evolve so that it's easy on part of the charging platform to charge any of the vehicles which are coming, and that's one major thing. So the interaction that we have been doing with people and with the companies that have been there. So one is the cost factor as well. So since somebody who takes a vehicle, he understands that it is 2.5 lakh costly, and then he realizes that will it be prudent on his part to either use a IC engine vehicle and save on the initial capital. So this is one major thing that is hindering people. And second, the anxiety that will I have a charging place. A friend of mine has just got his EV, but he's always worried that how long can he take down there, and if suppose he take down to the other city, will I get a charger? How would I locate? If suppose I go down there and the charger is not operative, then what will happen to my vehicle? So that anxiety is still out there with people. The chicken and egg problem still is there, and that is the reason that many people are not. All those people who are adopting to these vehicles are the ones who know that within a duration of 150 200 kilometers, they are again going to come back. So they know how much is the vehicle charged, and so one is, and second is we have to adopt as a part of our lifestyle. So we have to have that pride in having a green number plate. So things have changed. Things have changed in 1 year as well. People have started identifying, oh, it's a green number plate as compared to a white or black or a yellow one, and they are taking pride in having a green vehicle. So I think we need. So India still doesn't have that ecosystem where people take pride in having or worrying about the environment. The new generation is doing it, but yes, the older ones who are there, they really don't have that kind of pride, taking pride into that. So once that comes down, and then smaller benefits of free parking spaces and more charging equipments at the parking bays. So that is going to improve that. Second is what we have been trying to bring in more buses into the system, because therein we'll be saving a lot of fuel on that. The issue that again comes is, even after the subsidy, the cost of the buses is huge. So when I've been talking to most of these fleet owners to change their fleet. So even after the subsidies and all, the vehicles are really costly. So the viability gap funding is a major issue, and the government, the state governments or the Nagar Nigams and all, they really don't have that kind of money to fund for the viability gap. So most of the vehicles which have gone have gone to the road transport corporations. So the state governments have their road transport corporations which are otherwise bleeding, and these vehicles have given a bit of boost, pillar to these road transport corporations, and they're only those states who have road transport corporation have taken that, because overall the per kilometer concept wise it is quite cheaper, but the initial cost is too high. I think with the technology that is changing, things will improve. Most of the people whom I have been interacting are all wanting that if they can convert their IC vehicles into the electric vehicles. I think this is where we need to give a push up. With India's, it's not, we have to understand our ecosystem which is operating. So when you go to the West, even if there's a small accident, they'll just crush the whole vehicle. But in India, if the vehicle, we'll try to make it and denting, painting. So labor is also cheap. So again, I live in Bhilai, and I find vehicles which are 20 years old. People keep them, people use them. So unless and until, so because it's cheap. So unless and until we give them some benefit, wherein an old vehicle, if it can be retrofitted with these things, and and when these centers come up, and simultaneously you have charges as well. So that is what is going to improve the adoption. So that is also there. Second, the few companies have really come up well with charging infrastructure. They want to improve on that. So we are planning for that. Long range, we are planning intersections or places where we need to compulsory come up with charging systems. And the government of India should also first think more, and the FEM subsidies and all should go in for these charging stations, because the number of subsidies. So EESL has come up with, so they have only just 20 charging stations here in Chhattisgarh, wherein they'll be doing it. So this 20 is a minuscule amount. So we'll have to identify those states which are willing to adopt these things, and the government of India should come up and help these states. Suppose if I am ready, okay, if I want 400, can you give me 400 charging stations? I'll help you out. We have come up with these policy. A policy is also not there. That is also a big thing. So suppose now if I am an entrepreneur, what benefit will I gain? What charges will I take from a person? So in Chhattisgarh, we have 5 rupees per unit flat rate, with the regulatory commission has done for it. So how much will I charge? Can I charge 7? Can I charge 8? Will that give me? So unless and until we think on these points, which are very practical points, then only, so suppose we can compulsory make people in petrol pump to start that, but they'll need to get some kind of profit from that. So once they'll understand that, okay, once a charging station will come, I'll have profit. So there, that will really help improving this infrastructure. Once this infrastructure is there, even if we don't go for 100% of those places, even if I have a target of 100, if I get 30, 40 also, people will start buying more. So it is this anxiety of not having a charging system that is there. Second is the fast charge also. So most of the vehicles which are coming really don't have fast charging facilities. So for you have to put in and have to charge them for 6-7 hours. So that is also one major thing that is hindering this whole process. But I feel slowly and steadily people are realizing it, and I personally I feel that EVs are going to be adopted fast. The way technology is moving, the way battery technologies are moving, I'm hopeful that we'll move fast on these adoptions.
Mr. Pandey, I'll come back to you with a question on technology. How NHAI is leveraging technology-based solutions to establish transparency, efficiency, and ensuring safety for all. Over to you.
As I said in the opening remark, that we are utilizing in each and every part of the project life cycle. To explain my point of view, say for example, when we implemented NSDP, the whole idea of and the basic data for the implementation of NSDP was the availability of the traffic data on a particular portion. When we have launched Bharatmala, the entire philosophy was changed, and I have the global data of 600 districts among the country. I know what kind of freight is moving from one point to another point. So my planning process has undergone a change because of the availability of data and the availability of the data analysis capability. So this is part on the planning side. Even on implementation, as I said, we have everything now. Now it is not through letters, it is through the data lake, and it is highly transparent and open system. Our tendering is e-tender. It is long back. We have already adopted. Now the latest in the series is during the construction. We are moving toward intelligent construction, wherein we have asked that all the equipment should be equipped with the sensors. So I need not to measure the thicknesses. I need not to measure temperature. I'll know every time how much work has been done, and I'll be updated every now and then. Coming to the use of technology during the operation, that is more important because that is visible to the user. The first step is the electronic toll collection. The toll collection was treated as one of the major evil of the road development, because people were stopping, they were waiting, and then they are paying. That we have already overcome. As I said in the opening remark, then ATMS is one area where we are doing it. It means, I'll just tell you in very, very layman term, today people are not interested in what is the distance between point A to point B. He is more interested how much time I'll take to travel from point A to point B, and it will vary from season to season, time to time, depending upon the traffic. So he is more interested in letting know what time he'll reach point B, and it is a variable. So that kind of information he is expecting, and that I am supposed to provide him. ATMS will help me in providing this kind of information. Secondly, you have earlier seen my the information signboard. That information is perfectly okay, but today people are looking for more variable kind of information, which is changing, and all those we are providing as part of our advanced traffic management system. And ultimately, for the road user, the intelligent transport system will answer all these. Thank you very much.
And my last question to our speaker from Government of Maharashtra, Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh. Sir, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a new battery swapping policy for electric vehicles in the recent budget. The government would also be developing new mobility zones meant for electric vehicles charging stations. What are the future challenges do you see in EV policies and EV infrastructure, including charging stations, battery testing, and energy storage? Over to you.
See, one of the challenges in battery swapping could be that these batteries are not all standardized. And if they are not all standardized, then it will not be easy to swap the battery of one vehicle into the battery of another vehicle. So unless we bring in some standardization in the battery manufacturing and usage space, maybe there will be challenges that each one will have to need their own battery swapping infrastructure as well. But it's a very, very welcome move, because battery swapping ensures that people will have lesser time to kind of get their vehicles back into operation, because they can just swap the batteries quickly and move on, rather than wait for the batteries to get recharged and then move ahead. So it's a very good initiative. We have in our state, what we've done is that we've also come out with changes in our development control rules, which mandate public charging infrastructure to be set up in public places, and which also mandate societies and buildings to ensure that at least 25% of the parking space is electrified. We have also announced a very lucrative, very competitive price for electricity for electric vehicles. So charging infrastructure will not really be paying those telescopic charges on use of electricity. In fact, it's a fixed charge per unit, and it is extremely competitive. And we hope that it will also help battery swapping, because batteries can remain charged and will be charged at the same price, so people will not have to pay telescopic charges. Now, one of the challenges that you would have also perhaps thought about is this whole idea of how you fill petrol today or diesel today. It's a 1 maximum 2 minute experience. But that is also because we are not adding up to the cost of moving these inputs from faraway places, and the time of moving these inputs from faraway places, because most of the cost has already been recovered. So pipelines have been set up. You have set up a lot of dispensing stations. It's only a matter of time that the same thing will happen with electric infrastructure. The advantage of electric charging infrastructure is that there is distribution and transmission infrastructure already in place across the country. So to ramp it up will not take much time, is what I personally believe. And the government of India's announcement of incentivizing battery swapping and incentivizing charging infrastructure's creation is an extremely welcome move. It will definitely give us a great fillip, and I'm very confident that India's future is going to be electric, is going to be smart, is going to be sustainable, is going to be green. And there is no doubt in my mind that the incentives of the government of India, along with our incentives given through our policies, will give a lot of confidence to our citizens to move on to electric vehicle usage.
I'll go to Mr. Manu Srivastava, sir. What should be the way forward for faster adoption of electric vehicles, and also the startups working in this space, how can they get a boost?
I think we have to broadly, just to summarize, work on two sides of it. One is to make the capital cost of the initial product cheaper, and the other is to control the rate at which you can charge vehicles. Broadly, these are the 2 points. For the first point, the government has a role in terms of taxation, in terms of demand aggregation, in terms of increasing the regulatory developments that we have heard about in Kerala by taking the lifetime longer. Another way is very often in electrical vehicles, for example, there is no need of a registration for two-wheelers which are below a certain speed. So that is again a measure that helps in that. And secondly, when it comes to charging, I would broadly say 2 points: different tariff category for electrical charging, and secondly, facilitating decentralized generation and usage of that energy. Thank you.
Mr. Jyothilal, the same question to you. What should be the way forward for faster adoption of electric vehicles, and how startups can get a boost, those who are working in this sector, especially in the battery, how they can get a boost through battery swapping policy, including the interoperability?
Yeah. First of all, I think the renewable energy should be able to be transmitted across the grid. Maybe initially free of cost. Later on, they can start charging. So I think that so that you generate power in Rajasthan, you should be able to take it across the country to grid. That will make sure that the source of power is also green. Otherwise, we may be polluting somewhere else, and we say the source of energy should also be green. That is the first and foremost. Second is as battery swapping need to promote already, government has announced that. Then coming to the battery part, so the open data is another thing, because so innovations will come, because then only the companies can use the data and do that. Then third part is the you probably some financing for the battery as such, because battery is a separate entity. You can sell the vehicle without battery and register it. Then battery can battery can be financed in a separate model. Okay. Then third one is that you need to probably fund now the manufacturing of the battery within. Basically, you need to start with the cell manufacturing. Now, Government of India is also promoting cell manufacturing. Then battery assembly packs is another. And segregate the battery from the vehicle so that there is a separate financing that becomes much more easier. Then the insurance part, because sometimes resale value is another concern which probably people may have. With the scrappage policy, one option is you, without giving any financial incentive, give additional 5 more years or 10 more years for an electric vehicle, because you need to only replace a battery on 8th year or 10th year according to when it gets over. So you give additional life so that the life, maybe the cost of the vehicle, you have got a capital cost which you have maybe slightly more than the diesel that you are able to recover. Then coming to the bus and truck sector, you need to put fueling stations across the since it is just like LNG, you have got a longer range, but you need to support those capital infrastructure which is required for setting up the fuel stations. That's slightly high, so that the government need to. Then companies which are working in the fuel side electrolyzer. In fact, India has already started exporting to USA. Ohmium, which is set up by the Bloom Energy guys. In fact, they started exporting from Bangalore. So we need to support the fuel companies which are into electrolyzer, into fuel cell, as well as in the entire EV space. Maybe the startups which are coming to that sector need to be promoted. Another is, for example, E-Plane, which is one of the startups which is registered in Kerala, designed the E-Plane, which can now take up to 500 kg between the maybe metro and the Kochi airport. So we need such people to be funded. Maybe some seed funding sort of thing can be thought of. Then aviation turbine fuel is another area which is emerging. Probably already the airlines started trying that. I think there are a lot of opportunity in the EV and the related spectra and spaces. You need, coming back to last point, MSME micro should become medium or small and then medium. So that transformation has to happen. Maybe some iron hand from RBI is required, because otherwise commercial banks need to lend at a cheaper rate. At least let them give the credit in time so that the micro can become medium, because you need a lot of capital. Another option is you can go for DFIs, which is announced, because these are all long-term projects with maybe capital intensive, which may recover maybe 20 years or 30 years. Maybe green bonds is another option, DFI funding. Then maybe commercial banks also funding the MSMEs in a big way. That we find that the CD ratio is not picking up, that MSMEs are not getting the credit. I think that is a very, very important point as far as if we need the startups and the MSMEs to come, and it can create a lot of employment opportunity. I'm sure this next age is going to be that of India, and we should make it with the transformation from the carbon to hydrogen will happen next 5 to 10 years, and let us work for that. Thank you.
My last question to Mr. Anjum Parwez. Sir, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced a new battery swapping policy for electric vehicles. The government would be developing new mobility zones meant for electric vehicle charging stations. You also explained how Karnataka government is gearing up in this direction. As India's EV ecosystem is constantly evolving, what will be the scope of EV adoption for the logistics companies running large fleets? And where do you see role of startups in this segment?
Yesterday, one person came to me, like he's basically in the real estate sector. And he came to me, said that I want to expand in the electric vehicle charging setup. So I told, yes, it's a really good thing that you are from the real estate, you are trying to move to the electric vehicle. And he is planning that along the highway, he has some 3-4 land which are available. So as you rightly said that it is easy to provide a charging station for a smaller vehicles, 2-wheeler or 3-wheeler, or even say a smaller car. But when you come to the mobility of the big vehicles, the trucks and all those things, you need a different kind of charging stations. So there is going to be a requirement of charging station along the highway very frequently. And I discussed with him and I told him that don't go only for the charging station. have a good extent of land so that you can have a cafe also, a kind of restaurant also, a kind of charging station also. There are multiple truck terminals. Like if you see in the state government of Karnataka, we have a lot of multiple truck terminals. They can be developed as a charging station for the bigger vehicles. So bigger vehicle is still a challenge, but like suppose in Bangalore, the BMTC buses have started, like we bought 95 air conditioned buses for the BMTC, which is running on the electric, these are on the battery. And we are thinking that how we can provide charging places for the BMTC, so that because these are all feeder buses for the metro. So that also in future, whatever building that we are going to come up, we are going to keep the ground floor exclusively for these kind of activity, the bus charging, the auto charging, and all those things. So there's a great future, but the bigger vehicle, it will take some time. Bigger vehicle, it will take some time because it's still the gap between the diesel vehicle and the electric vehicle is very, very high. And maybe with the improvement of technology for the batteries, the cost will come down. But yes, two-wheeler and three-wheeler, we are on par with diesel and electric.
One last question and a quick comment from Mr. Dipanshu Kabra, Transport Commissioner, Government of Chhattisgarh. Can you please also underline some of the future challenges in EV policies and EV infrastructure like charging stations, battery testing, and energy storage?
The batteries are the major challenge. So the other thing, there's nothing much of the technology which is all there. In fact, it is so easy when you sit in an EV vehicle. I've driven it myself, and it's so soundless. You just really don't understand ki, oh, you have sat in such vehicle as you compare to the same vehicle into internal combustion engines. So that's one thing. The main the problem then again comes is that how do you know what is your battery life? So, but still, it's a good change, because I feel that the charging infrastructure that which will come up, it will take time. So in the meantime, this was a needed thing. When we were thinking of running buses from here to around 400 kilometers Bastar, this was one idea which had come to us, and which the transporters had told. So if they were talking to those bus manufacturers, and they said that if you can come up with one center at the one place at the center, and if we can swap the batteries, it will be easy for us. So that is how the policy interventions will make EVs more involved into, and people will push for EVs. The government also needs to do that. We also need to showcase if we can take the 10 vehicles that we'll purchase, we'll have 2 EVs as well, or 3 EVs as well. That is also going to give a fill up to the EV adoption. And once we start in more charging areas, I think people will definitely want to come to these vehicles. I've driven myself, and they are fabulous. And the more better vehicles are expected to come, I feel within these, I think 22, it's really going to change the way EV was there.
Thank you. And what I feel is the revolution to transformation has already begun, because to improve EV charging infrastructure and to fast track the adoption of electric vehicles in India, the central government has also decided to install more than 70,000 EV charging stations across the country in the next few years. And let's hope that India should move towards electrifying mobility. With this, I conclude today's panel discussion, Smart Transportation and Electric Vehicles, part of Urban Innovation Summit 2022. On behalf of ET Government, I sincerely thank our guest panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for bringing out the important points from the discussion. Certainly, you have covered every aspect of the topic.